The Shop to the Apartment. Written and read by W.P. Thrift. You can find me at Lantis Armstrong on Twitter. Chapter 13. Aftermath. Getting up after being knocked over by Sweeney charging past him, Liquid Lunch Lady rises up again and levels his gun square at Lantis, ready to put an end to this before anything else weird happened. Then the earth beneath Liquid Lunch Lady falls away, causing him to plummet underground. Peter emerges from the hole with a hard hat on, a torch in one hand and a pickaxe in the other. He looks around, dusty goggles on his face, before lifting them up so that he could see where he's at. He glances back towards the apartment complex just in time to see Sweeney and Sam XP smashing down through the roof. "Oh, God damn it!" Peter yelled. He pulled himself out of the hole and brushed himself off. He had been working on that tunnel for days, hoping to create a direct path between his room and the parking garage of one of the hotels he works at, so that he would have an escape route in the event of ninjas. But now he had just witnessed the roof of his apartment being smashed open, so he was likely going to have to move now, making his efforts over the past few days worthless. "Lantis!" Peter shouted, furious and perplexed. "How the hell did you get surrounded by women in one pieces? That is so not fair!" Lantis was still being carried away by Annabelle and Dash, though they had barely made it away from the pool thus far. They were headed towards the gym, where they knew Rose was hiding. After they were all back together, there really was no plan on where to go after that. They would just have to improvise. Liquid Lunch Lady jumped back out of the hole, furious about this, but then the wretched, unbearable odor of dumpster claws came wafting by, and, in a momentary lapse of consciousness, Liquid Lunch Lady fell back into the hole. Dumpster Claus was passing by at the other end of the apartment complex, out on the sidewalk, and a particularly evil wind had carried his odor all the way over here. Peter viciously fought back against the wind using his torch until it passed, waving the fire back and forth. Then Liquid Lunch Lady emerged from the hole a second time, declaring, "You're all gonna suffer for this indignity! Tom XP, kill 'em all!" Then Liquid Lunch Lady turned around to see, to his horror, Sweeney was standing right behind him, looking pissed. Apparently, Sam XP hadn't taken all that long to deal with. Sweeney was carrying a giant keg of rum with him under one arm. Tom XP came flying in from out of nowhere, smacking Sweeney into the hole that Peter had just crawled out of. And Liquid Lunch Lady had to jump out of the way to avoid getting knocked back down into there again himself. "I am here. They will die. Incorrect function!" Tom XP declared, then blasted his arm-mounted flamethrower at Peter. Luckily, Peter spent so much time playing with fire that he had built up an immunity, so all this did was let Peter know that these assholes wanted to fight. "Oh, now what the fuck?" Liquid Lunch Lady screamed, seeing Peter unharmed by that attack. "What the hell is up with you people?" About that time, a pterodactyl snatched Bowman up out of the pool, off the raft he had been relaxing on. Bowman chirped like a bird from frustration at his good time being interrupted, and pinchied the pterodactyl's nipples to get it to let go. It squawked in pain, then dropped him, and Bowman landed on Liquid Lunch Lady, who broke his fall. "Oh, God damn it, that stupid bird! Hey, Peter, I just saw that bird again, the one I've been telling you about," Bowman declared. Then he looked down at Liquid Lunch Lady. "Oh, are you still here? Did you ever get me those fish sticks I asked for? I promise I won't tell anyone at the high school that you snuck me out some extra. It'll be just like old times." Liquid Lunch Lady shoved Bowman off, stood up and aimed a gun square at his forehead. Then Bowman used his high-tech goggles to blast out a laser and knock the gun out of Liquid Lunch Lady's hand, burning off his own eyebrows in the process.
"Oh, God damn it, it happened again!"
Bowman fussed. Taking his time to run back and create some distance between himself and these people, Liquid Lunch Lady drew out another gun to replace the first one. He had completely lined his apron with firearms. Tom XP rushed at Peter and tackled him to the ground, pummeling him while Peter tried to grab the robot's gonads to squeeze and twist them off. He didn't realize it was a robot, thinking to himself that it was just some asshole in a Renaissance fair costume, of which he had frequently done battles with.
"Incorrect function! Your below-the-belt tactics will not work on me,"
Tom XP taunted. "Damn it, Bowman, don't just stand there! Help me!" Peter yelled at him while getting his face bashed in left and right.
"Oh, sure, make me do all the work."
Bowman grumbled, then used his goggles to hack into Tom XP's program to try and shut him off. But it wasn't working.
"Oh, goddamn firewall! Goddamn robot! Oh, goddamn everything today! You know what? I'm just gonna go take a nap."
"Wait, what? No! Bad Bowman, get back here!" Bowman froze, trembling in anger.
"How dare you and yours! It shall not be Bad Bowman anymore! I will make Bad Peter stick, no matter how many times I have to say it."
Bowman charged at Peter and began to help Tom XP pummel him, which confused the robot enough to make him back off. Peter shoved Bowman back and hopped up before lunging at the robot with a knife. Stabbing at the robot's domed head, Tom XP went crazy and started blasting his plasma cannon in all directions, blasting holes in the apartments all around him and setting them on fire. Liquid Lunch Lady continued to gradually step backwards, watching this, and wondering if he had completely miscalculated his odds here. Then he ran into something solid and stopped to turn around to see what it was. Sweeney stood over him, breathing intensely, and then his lips began to rip open as the stitches began to tear through them, because he was slowly forcing his mouth open so that he could say something.
"Why for you try and bury me in the cold, cold ground?"
Sweeney demanded, assuming that Liquid had somehow been the one who had shoved him in the hole. Liquid Lunch Lady screamed and ran from Sweeney, but was grabbed and beaten several times on the concrete. His body didn't hold up to it quite as well as the robot's had earlier, when Sweeney was smashing it around. And the light soon faded from Liquid Lunch Lady's eyes, just before they were squished right out of his head, along with so much other stuff following right behind them. Sweeney left the greasy, bloody mess behind and stomped over to the rampaging robot. But Bowman finally took the initiative to blast the robot in half with a second round of eye lasers, the power cranked way up from the last time. Bowman then ran around with his hair on fire from his own laser blast, screaming, until Sweeney was nice enough to pick him up by the nape of his neck and toss him over into the swimming pool. Bowman emerged from the water, floating around, his hair extinguished. He swam back over to his plastic raft and got back up onto it, and took a sip from his iced tea, which the raft's coaster had safely guarded for him. Bowman stretched out, getting ready to relax and enjoy more of this sunny, sunny day, while all of the apartments around him burned, their smoke bellowing high into the sky. Radix was sitting up on his hospital bed, reading a book by the dim light of a lamp. The curtains were drawn, so no natural light was entering the room. He just felt the most comfortable this way. Him being able to see out the window meant that others would be able to see in, and he had had quite enough random encounters lately to tide him over for a good, long while. Several days had passed since the Battle of the Goddesses under the campus grounds, and Radix was making a speedy recovery from all the injuries he had sustained during that conflict. While he normally would never be able to afford even a brief stay in a hospital, let alone an extended one, he currently had a certain benefactor paying for his visit. Speak of the devil, Alcyone appeared in the doorway to his room. She went in to speak, but Radix held up one finger, and she obediently remained quiet while he finished reading the paragraph he was on, then put a marker in the book before setting it on the table next to him. He was treating her that way because he was still quite pissed at everything she had done. While she had one of her assistants from the college pass him a message that she would pay for his treatment, which is why he was here now, she had yet to actually speak to him in person until now. Alcyone's face flushed when she finally looked at him, making her appear even paler than usual. She didn't know where to begin, as she so very rarely had to approach a mortal while feeling humbled towards them. "I just had a long talk with my sister in a room on the floor above you," Alcyone said. "She's still more worried about me than anyone else. But don't be offended by that. There's so much more going on in that poor girl's mind. I can't even imagine what this must be like for her." "Well, speaking of worrying for you, it's good to see that you're, alive," Radix said. "I guess. Maybe. I mean, you're not going to try and kill me again, right?" Alcyone crossed the room so fast that Radix did, in fact, assume that she was coming to attack him. He was about to summon up his katanas again when her breast crashed into the side of his head and pressed in there, disarming him from sheer embarrassment, as she squeezed him into a tight hug. "I swear I will never lay another hand upon you or any of your friends," Alcyone sobbed, her posh, royal demeanor completely shattered from a tidal wave of emotions that suddenly erupted from her. Radix, however, just could not take this serious, while her pillow-sized boobs were hugging around his head harder than her arms were. She apparently didn't even realize this was happening, either. "I am so sorry for everything. After all the cruel things I did to you, you still saved my sister. I never thought I would have her back in my life. Not truly. Don't you understand that? Can you even comprehend the agony that 1,000 years of bitter suffering brought me, only to be cured in an instant by you and your friends? I can never repay you enough." Okay, I get the idea," Radix yelled. She pulled back away from him, and now he regretted yelling. He wondered if it would be pervy of him to ask for another hug, then decided yes, it probably would. "Listen, I get it, I think. But I gotta know, what was up with the whole trying to kill Atlantis thing you had going on?" Alcyone dabbed away tears from her eyes with a silk handkerchief, recomposing herself. "There is a prophecy passed down by the heralds of Gyremen, a wicked cult that still plagues the earth to this very day, hidden away in its darkest corners. Pray that you never encounter them," Alcyone began to explain. Right, the prophecy. I have come across it," Radix said. "It was written by some monks, though, right?" "The monks were only writing about things that they had read, not things that they personally understood," Alcyone explained. "The cult itself knows the truth, that 3 children were born under a black star, the sons of Mar. They will one day all come for one another, and when only one of them remains, the last surviving son will bring about the end. of this world."
"You know, I always knew that there was something up with Lantis," Radix said. "Never could put my finger on it, though."
"Your friend may not have any desire to bring about the end of the world, mind you, so don't think ill of him," Alcyone said.
"So you just up and decided to destroy the world, then?"
Radix asked. Alcyone fidgeted. "To put it bluntly, yes. I up and decided that the world no longer deserved to house life. But please understand me. I could not regret that decision more now. I was drunk on bitter fury. But the second I awoke after our fight in that cave, and I saw my sister's face again, her eyes reflecting none of the insanity brought about by that damned orb, I sobered up entirely. Further, I can promise you that no matter what, I will never tread upon such a dark path again. I cannot even fathom it now. This world is too beautiful. This world gave me my sister, Talitha. How could I ever want to see it perish?"
"Well, you say that now,"
Radix began to say,
but decided to just let it drop. "So, Talitha's healing as fast as you did, I'm guessing."
"A little slower, I'm afraid," Alcyone confessed. "Her mind is pure again, but her body was still trapped underground for a very long time. Her magic has greatly atrophied. Fabribus was still able to overwhelm me with pure hatred as her motivation. But Talitha has no malice in her heart. She'll need a great deal of training and practice before she can return to her full strength. Speaking of which, that is another matter I wish to discuss with you. How is Amy doing?"
Radix sighed. Amy and Miranda had both checked out of the hospital before Radix had even arrived, and both were well on their way to physical recovery. However, after everything was over and everyone's adrenaline had worn off, Amy had become a panicked mess. The stress of everything had suddenly gotten to her, and now Miranda was spending almost all of her time at Amy's place, just trying to walk her through it. Radix wished more than anything that he could be there, too. But at the end of the day, he had to admit he had only really known her for a week, and they had only gotten along as friends for like 2 days. He just didn't know her well enough to invite himself over into her home the way Miranda did. If they asked for him, then he'd be there in a heartbeat. Until then, he would just worry about her on his own. "She's doing okay," Radix somewhat lied. "I mean, there have been a few nightmares here and there." Alcyone nodded. "Talitha, too, is finding herself suffering from night terrors. The memories of Fabribus were not as completely eradicated as Amy and even myself had hoped they would be. They are not clear memories or anything, but she still sees her evil self in her sleep. Fortunately, only as a passerby, an observer. But it's still unsettling for her, to say the least." "And you can't do anything to finish purging any lasting memories in the back of her mind?" Radix asked. Alcyone shook her head. "No. I've never possessed such a power. Fabribus had the power to do this, but of course she wouldn't use it on herself, and that's a power Talitha simply never possessed. It came to her later in her darker studies. But Amy does have that power, and many others now." "Right," Radix said. "About those, is that actually gonna stick with her, or will it all just wear off in a bit?" "Inheriting powers from being possessed by a goddess is a completely unprecedented occurrence. I have no idea what will happen," Alcyone confessed. "But academically, I am interested in finding out. And as a sister, I also have reason to both study her and help her study herself further, to perhaps someday finish the healing process that she has already started.
Or, well, we could just leave well enough alone, Radix said. If we keep prying into Talitha's mind, it could destroy it, right?
Of course, Radix was just guessing here. He had no idea how this stuff worked. But that seemed like a logical possibility when it came to messing with minds. Perhaps you are right, Alcyone said. But I do want Amy to become my personal student of the psychic arts, for every other reason I stated, and more. So, Radix, do you think perhaps that you could talk to her for me? I do not deserve any more favors from you or her, but if you could find it in your heart—
Just ask her yourself,
Radix interrupted. Alcyone fought with herself over that for a bit, mostly because she was still unaccustomed to just being okay with taking any sort of advice from mortals. But she did owe Radix more than he would ever know, so she nodded, agreeing.
If it helps, I'm sure Amy will say yes. She's a bit freaked out by everything right now, but when she's worked through that, her academic-minded self will probably be 1,000 times more curious than even yours is. And who better to teach her about godlike powers than a goddess, right?
Radix said. Alcyone nodded. Correct. It would be a mutually beneficial learning experience for the both of us. But for now, I must retire to my sister's room. I've waited so long to truly see her again. I hope you understand. If you require my aid at any time, feel free to summon me again. Not just here at the hospital, but anywhere, at any time. This is an offer extended to you forever.
Aight,
Radix replied. Alcyone left the room and left Radix to ponder over everything he had learned. There was a crazy amount of things to unpack here. The crazy cult he had just heard about, the prophecy which was still in effect, whether Alcyone was having any more to do with it or not, and all the new friends that he had apparently just made, including divine ones. Finally, he thought about the school, and wondered if being bros with the president of the college now meant that he wouldn't have to pay tuition, and also potentially guarantee him high grades no matter what. That would be nice, and it was a far more down-to-earth topic that he could easily contemplate than all the insanity going on otherwise. Deciding he wouldn't be able to figure anything out while sitting in a hospital bed, Radix reached over and grabbed the book that he had been reading, flipped it back open, and kept going where he had left off. That concludes Chapter 13 of The Apartment. Tune in every Tuesday for new chapters. If you would like to reach me, you can do so at Lantis Armstrong on Twitter. That's LANTISARMSTRONG. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us again for next week's chapter, A Foreshadowing Call.